What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I'm here with NPL Season 6 Week 8 against the Brisbane Brelooms, coached by my good friend and channel partner Aberforth. Definitely check out his channel if you haven't already. We've given him several shoutouts in the past as he does help upload to TTM from time to time. Definitely take a look at his content as he is a very skilled battler, incredibly well respected in the Smogon community, especially in the Ubers community, and definitely just someone that I would recommend trying to get to know if you haven't already, as he's a pretty cool guy. Now let's go ahead and dive into this matchup a little bit, as Abe is 6-1 with his team. And as you can see, his team is Kartana, Xurkitree, Nidoqueen, Buzzwole. So he has 3 Ultra Beasts and a Nidoqueen, Sableye, which is kind of randomly there, Darmanitan, Alolan Ninetales, Pelipper, Poliwrath, forming a little Rain Core, Kyurem, Mega Altaria, and Leavanny. So it's really clunky. It's basically just hyper offense with Sableye. It's a very interesting team for sure. And just looking at it on paper, it's hard to understand how it's doing so well, at least to me. I can't really comprehend how this team is doing so well, but the answer is that Abe has been playing phenomenally all season long. He's using his team perfectly, and despite the fact that it has a lot of holes that I'm going to do my best to exploit in my team preparation this week, it doesn't mean I'm going to win, even if I bring the perfect team, because he has been playing so well with that team, despite how really most of his matchups don't look that good in my opinion. He's still winning, so it's kind of scary for sure, but he definitely has some threats. So let's talk about the threats a little bit. Kartana is obviously a huge threat because of its massive attack stat. It might be the strongest raw attack stat in OU, at least. I'm not positive on that, but it's very, very high, and it's very hard to switch into that. I only have a couple things on my team that really can, those being something like Ferrothorn, maybe Metagross, and Talonflame, which is actually going to be the route I take with my build, in that the Flame Body defensive Talonflame avoids the 2-hit KO from all forms of Kartana. It's actually not even close as long as he doesn't have Stealth Rocks up. The most scary sets would be something along the lines of Swords Dance Life Orb, or just a Choice Bandit set if he has Stealth Rock up. Either way, if he brings Kartana, obviously I'm going to do my best to keep Stealth Rocks off the field, so I will be bringing a Defogger this week. Certainly, the Xurkitree is kind of a threat, although my team is really built very well to deal with power offensive electrics. That was part of my draft plan going forward whenever I first got my team, in that I didn't really want to be beaten by all the scary electric threats like Tapu Koko, Xurkitree, these new really powerful electric threats, as well as the Thundies with Z-moves, which are also huge threats to my team, or not necessarily to my team, but in general huge threats across the league. So I wanted to make sure those were well in check, and that also applies to Xurkitree here. So not as big of a threat as it could be, but it's still a Xurkitree, so I have to be careful about that high special attack stat. Nidoqueen, not the biggest threat to my team, as I do have very powerful offensive options to deal with it. Buzzwole, again, it's a good switch into Mega Lopunny, really his only switch into Mega Lopunny outside of defensive Pelipper, so there's a good chance Buzzwole will come to serve that purpose, potentially with a Rocky Helmet, more likely with a Cobra Berry, I believe, and really, those are the biggest threats to my team. Kyurem's kind of a threat as well because it can switch into Nidoking, which nothing else on his team really can do. Mega Altaria is just inherently a threat, but I do have many ways to deal with that, as well as I do have the likes of Bulky Talonflame, potentially Nidoking, Bullet Punch, Metagross, a lot of priority on my team. Azumarill, which can always check it, etc. So his team is threatening, not defensively. It's not threatening defensively at all, but offensively it's obviously very threatening because Beast Boost is a very scary ability. So let's just hop on over to the team builder, and I'll talk about what I decided to bring this week. So first and foremost, as I already mentioned, I am bringing the Talonflame, and this set is bulky. It is designed to outpace a max speed Kartana. I don't think he's bringing max speed. He usually doesn't run max speed sets, but I still didn't think it was worth the risk in adding more bulk just to try to catch him speed creep to something else. It's not worth that because I don't want to just lose to Kartana. So the combination of Will-O-Wisp and Flame Body will certainly keep Kartana in check. I'm not concerned about it whatsoever as long as I keep Stealth Rock off the field and as long as Talonflame is relatively healthy. Brave Bird hits actually his entire team pretty hard. Even without any investment, it does a lot of damage. It nearly OHKOs Buzzwole because of its 4x weakness, and after Stealth Rock, I believe it does OHKO Buzzwole, or at least has a chance to. Offensive Buzzwole, that is, not defensive. So this set is really, really good against him. It also is a hard switch into Sableye, a hard counter to Sableye. Sableye can't do anything to this because I can taunt it, Will-O-Wisp it, and Brave Bird it down, and it will just die because I can always recover up faster than it can take me out. So Talonflame is good for the Kartana and the Sableye, as well as just checking the Mega Altaria, checking things like the Buzzwole, for another example. Trying to think about other mons on his team that are relatively checked like this. A Darmanitan locked into a fire move is checked by this because of my defense investment, so this is just really good overall against his team. Not going to sweep him by any means, but if he doesn't bring proper ways to deal with Stallbreaker Talonflame, then he's going to have a hard time for sure. So that's this set. Next up is the Azumarill. This is kind of an interesting set. So he does have that rain option on his team, and because the general purpose of this team is more hyper offensive, which is something I guess I didn't really talk about too much earlier, which I probably should have. So looking at how offensive his team is, bringing a balanced build is very risky, in my opinion. It's very, very risky because, knowing my luck, one critical hit, one or two critical hits, or one or two missed attacks can really be a huge detriment to balance, especially if it's one of my offensive mons that miss an attack against the Beast Boost abilities. That's my reasoning behind not wanting to bring a more bulky team this week. If I get hacked in any way with the bulky team, I will lose, because my bulky stuff cannot stand up to him after he gets Beast Boosts. So with that in mind, I wanted to take a more hyper-offensive route. Yes, I have a Stallbreaker Talonflame. No, that's not really something you generally see on hyper-offense, but I didn't want to lose to Kartana either, so I'm sure you can understand that. But with that said, let's talk about more of these offensive threats. So basically, I'm just picking 6 Pokemon that I feel can, or 5 Pokemon in addition to the Talonflame, that I feel can really threaten him offensively and rounding out the team that way. Because of his hyper offensive nature, I don't want to switch into it. I want him to be switching or just losing Pokemon, so that's the idea. So the Azumarill here is Resto Chesto. This is to be essentially a hard counter to his potential rain options, as with Rest and the Chesto Berry, as well as, yeah, the Darmanitan, I guess. I should be able to take really any hits from his Poliwrath, from his Pelipper. Specs Hurricane's a little bit annoying, but I do have the likes of a Latias and a Metagross to switch into that, as well as Talonflame being able to take one Hurricane if I have to. Just some options to think about. But the combination of Poliwrath and Aqua Jet hit his entire team bar Kartana, which is hit by Superpower. So this coverage, this group of coverage options is really effective against him for sure, as well as Aqua Jet just being that bailout card for things like a Scarfed Arm, for things like, oh, I don't know, a Xurkitree with a speed boost, Kartana with a speed boost, stuff like that. You'll see a lot of priority options on this team to deal with his hyper-offensive nature as well. So that was part of the strategy moving forward with this matchup, but I guess that's all I really wanted to say on the Azumarill. It's just there to stop the rain, as well as just be a bulky threat to his team. This also switches into Kyurem. I didn't mention that. It's my best answer to Kyurem on this team, in addition to the Metagross that you'll see here in a little bit. So I have soft checks to a lot of his team, but more often than not, I'm not going to be wanting to switch very much. I'm going to want to just attack, 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 and the game is probably going to have a lot of 50-50s involved for that reason, because it's going to be hyper offense on hyper offense. I do think my offense has the matchup advantage against his. That said, with how well he's been playing, it's not much of an advantage, so we'll just go ahead and jump on over to the next mon, being the Nidoking. So this is my Stealth Rocker. It is also a bulky Shukaberry set. So the reason for the bulk, first of all, is so that I can switch into Mega Altaria at least once. I do have Talonflame, which, yes, can switch into Mega Altaria. That's not a problem. The issue being that if he happens to be something along the lines of a DD Facade Mega Altaria, then my Talonflame isn't the best response, especially if he has Stealth Rocks up, and also especially if he also has Kartana, because Talonflame is my only response to Kartana really on this team, meaning that if he has Kartana plus Mega Altaria, I don't want to switch Talonflame into Mega Altaria. I want to have another response for that. That initial switching will be the Nidoking. It also gives me essentially free Stealth Rocks, as with my bulk investment, I can't be 2-hit KO'd by any 2 combinations of attacks unless he decides to go immediately for an Earthquake, which Abe is pretty aggressive. He might make a play like that, but I really don't expect him to whenever my most likely switch in is the Talonflame. So that was the thought with that, and this also will be my best switch into the Xurkitree, although I really don't think Xurkitree will come, but if it does, this will be my initial switch into Xurkitree for sure, as that will again be Stealth Rocks, as I can either pressure him out with the Earth Power or just chew any one hit, as I don't expect HP Ice. I expect HP Fire if he does bring Xurkitree, meaning that Nidoking is not 2-hit KO'd by anything unless he happens to be locked into Specs Energy Ball. So yeah, Nidoking is really good against him. The speed tier is solid against his threats, as the Ultra Beasts are not that fast overall, with the exception of Pheromosa, obviously, as well as Kartana, but I do have the T-Flame for Kartana, so this is really good against him overall, I believe. And Sucker Punch again for priority, Sludge Wave, Earth Power for neutral coverage against his entire team. So next up is the Latias. This monster just gets a kill every time it comes in, so that's pretty cool. He really doesn't have any switch-ins at all for this. He could try to switch in Sableye on my Psychic. I'm going to be clicking Psychic more often than not in this game with Latias, but if he does bring Sableye, I can just drop a Draco and kill it. So that's pretty cool. If the Altaria is Mega Evolved, I will feel pretty comfortable going for Psychic, knowing I can always take it out with the following Ice Beam, no matter what his spread is. This Latias set does take out, it does always 2-hit KO Mega Altaria as long as I'm not dropped from a Draco. So yeah, this is just really good against him overall, and depending on what he brings, depending on the number of Scarvers, etc., this could just straight win. It's just a matter of how many checks he brings, which I'm sure he'll bring at least one Scarfer. It's a matter of how many, and we'll just kind of see how that goes. But Defog, of course, to keep the rocks off the field for the Talonflame, as well as to just prolong the longevity of my team. I think that's how that should be said. Anyways, so yeah, this is just really good against him overall, and we'll see how that goes. So next up is the Metagross. Now this is the Hyper Offense Breaker, the Rock Polish Life Floor mixed Metagross set. This beats him as soon as I have prior damage on his entire team. So it does OHKO a lot of things, yes, but with the likelihood of Darm coming, obviously I don't have Earthquake on this set. I have Psychic. I felt Psychic was a much smarter bring because of the likes of Buzzwole and the likes of Nidoqueen, where Nidoqueen could definitely chew an Earthquake for Metagross, no questions asked. But with the Nidoking more likely being either a max HP spread or even max HP, max defense to take hits from Lopunny, Psychic definitely is better because this set OHKOs, I believe it OHKOs a max HP Nidoqueen after Stealth Rock as long as it's not like Pyapa Berry. So that's definitely really good against the likely Nidoqueen switch-in, I would say, as Psychic coverage surprisingly isn't that common on a Metagross, although I feel like he should expect it in this matchup just because of how weak his team is to Psychic spam. So the combination of Latias and Metagross really does a lot of work against this team, and we'll see how that goes for sure. And Bullet Punch to help check the Mega Altaria as well as check a Kyurem, and really I can set up a Rock Polish on his Kyurem as well as on just other weaker things on his team, I guess. Trying to think of others off the top of my head. I guess a Kartana locked into Leaf Blade would be something I could set up on, as well as even I believe a Buzzwole without Earthquake I can probably set up on as well. Not that well because I am a drop defense nature. Trying to think of other options. Mainly Kyurem. Mainly Kyurem was the target for setup on this. Poliwrath as well to an extent. So yeah, the reason for max speed on this is because that allows me to speed tie a Poliwrath in the rain, which I believe is pretty crucial for sure, just in case, as Poliwrath is kind of a threat, as my draft has a lot of ways to deal with rain, but what I'm actually bringing doesn't have too many ways to deal with it, so I did want to have a couple checks obviously on the team to deal with that, just in case the Azumarill is pressured or weakened by something else and can't get off a rest. So yeah, this is the Hyper Offense Breaker, and I'm expecting this to be what wins the game for me this week. So then last up is the Mega Lopunny. This doesn't have the best matchup against him, but Fake Out from this thing is very valuable in the matchup because of how just how scary his team can be, the many ways he can give boosts to his speed, to everything. Just getting a little bit of free chip damage is really nice for sure in the matchup. The kind of cool tech on this, as you can see, is the Hidden Power Flying, as what this does with the 112 EVs and special attack, this allows me to 2-hit KO a maxed HP Buzzwole. It is highly unlikely to be a specially defensive Buzzwole, so I'm not expecting that at all. But he might bring a Copa Berry, and if he does, that kind of sucks. But assuming he's going to be more I don't know, maybe Choice Scarf is possible, but more likely like a leftover set, I would say, or Rocky Helmet rather, to help deal with my Mega Lopunny. Then Hidden Power Flying is a really nice tech on this, because what that does is that puts it in range of Sledge Wave from Nidoking, as well as obviously being 2-hit KO'd by Mega Lopunny. So it gives me a lot of ways to deal with the Buzzwole on my team to make sure that that is not a threat to be concerned about. So really, this team will not let Buzzwole do anything, and that's pretty cool. I don't think Buzzwole is going to be able to do anything. Kartana, as long as Talonflame is healthy, is not going to be able to do anything. Xurkitree, I don't see Xurkitree doing much, or he might not, probably won't even come, but I really don't see it doing much in this matchup either. So I feel like I have the Ultra Beast core well countered with this team. The issue being, and Mega Altaria as well, the issue being things like the Darmanitan and things like the potential Rain, I believe, are what could actually be the more tricky things for me to deal with, and really the Kyurem as well, as my switches to Kyurem are pretty limited. yes, I have the likes of Metagross and the Azumarill. Those aren't really guaranteed counters, because Ice Beam does have a freeze chance for one, but for two, Kyurem does have coverage to hit both of them neutrally or super effectively, and Metagross actually does not appreciate Earth Power at all. So really, that leaves Azumarill as the only switch into Kyurem, and Azumarill could be highly pressured by the likes of things like Darmanitan as well as by Rain. So that's kind of the risk that you take in building a hyper-offensive team like this for this kind of matchup. I can't be guaranteed to be able to switch into all of his threats as many times as I need to, because that's just not how hyper offense works. So there's going to be a lot of 50-50s in this game, I can guarantee that, and it'll be a close one. It's not going to be an impressive differential on either of our ends. I think it'll be very close to the end, and you know, I think that's all I really have to say about this. So let's go ahead and hop on over to the battle, and let's see if we can get ourselves out of this deficit. We're currently at 3-4 plus 1. Let's see if we can get ourselves back to 500 and start working our way up into the positives for the first time in a long time this season. So here's the battle. So, as you can see, he brought Darmanitan, Mega Altaria, Buzzwole, Xurkitree, Nidoqueen, and the Kyurem. So, he did not bring Kartana, but he did bring Xurkitree, so I thought that was kind of weird. I felt like Kartana might have been a little bit better against my team, but I do understand why he brought Xurkitree, just in case I didn't bring things like my Latias or didn't bring things like my or one of my grounds, I guess, to help deal with his team. So I can understand why he brought it, but it's not going to do much in this matchup as it is really well checked. The only way it can be that effective is if he brings it in against Talonflame, in which case it's just going to be a switch into my Nidoking to get Stealth Rock. So I'm not too concerned about the Xurkitree. The Darmanitan and the Kyurem are probably the biggest threats to my team looking at team preview. As Darmanitan, I'm fully expecting to be Choice Scarf. It's always the set that I saw in my mocks is going to be Choice Scarf for sure. The Kyurem can be a variety of things, as a more bulky Kyurem is definitely a good switch into my Nidoking. That's definitely something that could come here. But also a double Choice Scarf, which, spoilers I guess, that's what it turns out to be, is a Choice Scarf set. Double Choice Scarf between the Kyurem and the Darmanitan is actually very threatening to what I brought, because I have offense, but I don't have a Scarfer on my offense, so both of them outspeed my entire team except bar my priority. So that makes getting up Stealth Rock a priority in this game. That said, it's hard to get up Stealth Rock unless he goes into his Xurkitree or unless he goes into his Mega Altaria. So I'm looking for that opportunity to get my Stealth Rocks up, and it still has to be a safe opportunity to do so as well. So let's go ahead and I guess talk about the lead matchup a little bit. So he has two potential leads here. I feel he could either lead with his Nidoqueen to try to get up his Stealth Rocks right away, as obviously that's his only rocker on his entire draft, so that's something. He doesn't have any hazard removal, so as soon as I get up my Stealth Rocks, they are there to stay unless I have to defog them away to get off his for my Talonflame, which Talonflame isn't essential in this matchup. So Talonflame really is not going to do too much, I don't think, outside of pseudo check the Mega Altaria, pseudo check the Darmanitan, and check the Buzzwole. It does check Buzzwole pretty well. He gets a little damage off on things like Kyurem and Nidoqueen, so it's okay this matchup. Probably the least useful thing on my team, so I'll keep that in mind for this. So he's either going to lead with Nidoqueen or Darmanitan. My best lead is still my Latias, in my opinion, as nothing... I was tempted to lead Azumarill, but Azumarill is so important to check the Kyurem. And really, yeah, to check the Kyurem. Azumarill is incredibly important for that. So I don't really want to lead Azumarill just in case he decides to lead with his Nidoqueen, as then he gets off potentially a free Sledge Wave if he is offensive on my incoming Latias, and that could be pretty bad, I think. I really don't like the prospect of that too much, especially because... yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to lead off with my Latias. I think it's a little bit smarter overall, just in case he does lead with Nidoqueen, as that could be essentially a free kill right off the bat. So that's what I'm going for. Let's go ahead and hop on into this. So he decides to lead off with his Darmanitan, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Not the worst thing in the world, as I am going to lead off with my Lati. I decided to stay in and scout his item just to make sure that it is Choice Scarf. It is Choice Scarf, but he's going to go into his Xurkitree to catch his Life Orb Psychic, and that's not a switch in, folks. That's going to die on this next turn. Now here, I will pause actually before I make that play. So I was somewhat considering pulling the switch in Nidoking just to get my Stealth Rocks up now, because I know how important Stealth Rocks will be later. That said, he could very easily just go for Hidden Power Ice here, because my Latias is in range of that, so that's not really a play that I can afford to do. I don't think he has Hidden Power Ice. He still could. I don't want to risk my Nidoking when I really do feel like I needed to switch into Altaria later on. So That's why I decided to stay in and go ahead and take him out with a Psychic. So that's one opportunity to get my Stealth Rocks up that I did not take. I don't know what he went for. If he went for Hidden Power Ice, I made the right play. If he went for Dazzling Gleam, I did not make the right play. So not really sure on that, but here he scares me out with the Darmanitan, as I am going to go straight into my Azumarill, and this will give him the opportunity to go ahead and go into his Nidoqueen and potentially get up his Stealth Rock, but I'm not going to just stay in and let that happen. I'm going to go into my Latias, as he either goes for a Sludge Wave and takes me out, or gets up his Stealth Rocks and I get a kill. So here I'm going to go ahead and fire off the Psychic, as he, according to Abe, he was actually supposed to be a Payapa Berry on this, which that makes sense definitely in this matchup, and in which case he would have taken me out on this turn, and I would not have been able to kill the Nidoqueen, which could have actually made a difference in the game for sure. But he was actually a Pitaya Berry on accident, so he dropped to that Psychic, but unfortunately after the Life Orb recoil I'm actually in range of Stealth Rock on my own, so in hindsight that might have been, I'm not sure, I guess that's kind of, I don't know, it's a tough situation. I guess my misplay in that situation might have been to not let my Lottie take the U-turn damage, maybe actually led with the Azumarill, and then just switched Lottie into the Nidoqueen after the fact. I think that might have been a smarter sequence of events there for me, but it is what it is. Down goes the Nidoqueen. I will end up losing my Lottie here as he revenges me with the Scarf Darmanitan. I'm locked by rocks, so I do have to sack here, as I'm going to go ahead and wait to see what he wants to switch into, so I do get momentum as he goes into Kyurem. So I don't know what kind of Kyurem this is, but I am going to go into my Lopunny. I'm going to fake out to scout if he stays in. If he stays in, he is either going to be a Chople Berry or Choice Scarf, and he goes into his Buzzwole. So I don't think he is either of them. I think he's more of a bulky Kyurem at this point. And here, expecting him to not have Superpower on this. If you look at my team, I don't think he has Superpower. It's not smart of me to pull a switch when he can easily sub down. So my play is to stay in and Hidden Power Flying, because when I Hidden Power Flying and get that damage off on this, it's then in range of Nidoking. It's in range of my entire team actually at that point. So my best play is definitely to stay in here, especially considering that Superpower is very unlikely to come on this build against my team. Plus, if I lose Mega Lopunny here, it's not the worst thing in the world, as Mega Lopunny is really the only thing on my team that Mega Altaria can set up on for free. So here I'm going to go ahead and fire off the Hidden Power Flying. It is 55%, so Special Lopunny is legit, guys. You should try it sometime, as he goes for the Power Up Punch, which makes sense. It's a setup threat. That's what Abe likes to do. No big deal. Now here it's a 50-50 as to whether or not he wants to go into his Kyurem. And now the only reason he would go into Kyurem, I guess, in that case is if he is Choice Scarf. I don't really know at this point what he is, but he did decide to stay in and sack his Buzzwole, further telling me that he's probably not Choice Scarf Kyurem, but then he switches in the Kyurem on the next turn. So then it's like, okay, are you Choice Scarf? Did you just bluff me? I'm not really sure. Regardless, I'm still going to stay in with my Lopunny here because I don't need it to win this game necessarily. It would be really nice if I were able to hard switch into my Metagross here, but if he's a max special attack Kyurem, because of my naive nature on my Mega Lopunny, he's going to be able to take me out with Earth Power from this range. And that's why I felt Earth Power was his best play in this situation. Little did I know, his EV spread was actually more mixed. He was not max special attack, so I actually would have lived in Earth Power. And if I had known that, if he had given me any sort of calc earlier in the game, then what I probably would have done is switched hard into Metagross here, knowing that he can't take out my Lopunny with an Earth Power. And if I had made that play, then I would have been in a very, very, very good position, because I have so much priority in the back to deal with his Scarf Darmanitan as well as a potential DD Altaria. So I do just leave my Mega Lopunny in just to test the waters and see what he is, and he does turn out to be Choice Scarf. So he kind of bluffed me on that. Good on him. And here I'm going to go into my Metagross, and this is a huge 50-50, so we got to think about this a little bit. So my potential plays: I am a Rock Polish Metagross, he is locked into Ice Beam. I could definitely just click Rock Polish here. Here is the reason why that is not a guaranteed play for me to make. If he goes hard Darmanitan, obviously he doesn't know what my set is. I very well could just have Earthquake. I don't know. Darmanitan is his win condition, sure. The thing is, it's not that unlikely that I just go for a Meteor Mash on this turn. And what I thought is that he would go into Darmanitan expecting me to go for a Meteor Mash. Therefore, if I were to go for a Rock Polish, the most I could do to the Darmanitan is about 60% with Psychic. That's not enough to where I felt like it was the right play to make, especially because to get that 60% off on Darmanitan, I would lose my Metagross in the process to a Flare Blitz, or I guess a Fire Punch if he has that. So that's why I decided actually to just go straight for the Psychic here, expecting him to potentially go into Darmanitan. He actually goes into his Altaria rather. Now, the situation here is that if I did go for the Rock Polish, then this Altaria would essentially die on the following turn, as there's no way even the Darmanitan will die to the combination of Meteor Mash and Psychic. So he has to sack his Altaria, as I am a Life Orb Metagross with a lot of attack investment, so Meteor Mash will take out this Mega Altaria, or 2-hit KO the Darmanitan with a combination of Psychic. So he's forced to sack if I got that 50-50 correct. But unfortunately for me, Abe made a very nice play there, expecting me to not go for a Steel move, and goes into his Altaria, and that allows him to essentially chew up that Psychic. So now, my play is either I could stay in, as my obvious switch in here is Nidoking. Very obvious, very, very obvious. I felt that his best play was still to go for something like a Fire Blast or an Earthquake. Okay, if he has Earthquake or Fire Blast, I believe that is his play here, as he could hit both of my most likely switch-ins. I guess the other potential switch-in is my Talonflame, which in hindsight might have been a better play. I don't know, I didn't end up going Talonflame. I'm trying to think about that now. I guess Talonflame wasn't a bad idea. I was kind of preserving Talonflame just to get a little bit of last-minute chip on this thing in case my Nidoking gets worn down, but I guess in hindsight, going T-Flame might have been a smarter play here, as that also covers the potential double into the Kyurem or into the Darm. So, maybe a misplay on my part, but what I actually end up doing is going into my Nidoking here, as I really want to get my Stealth Rocks up. I know I need Stealth Rocks up to beat the Darmanitan and the Kyurem. That's why I made that play. He makes a really nice double into Darm, and now I'm forced to sack something. So I have to go into my Talonflame, as I still don't have rocks on the field. I'm going to lose my T-Flame to 2 Flare Blitzes here. So T-Flame was basically just sack fodder in this game. I only really brought it for Kartana, which he did not bring, so it's not the worst thing in the world, I guess, but it would have been nice to have that sack fodder later on, I suppose. So now I'm going to go into my Azumarill, as here I can, okay, so here the situation is that I am in range of dying to the combination of Flare Blitz and Earth Power from Kyurem. That's a problem, because if he goes for Flare Blitz, and I try to... If he goes for Flare Blitz, he's not quite in range of Aqua Jet either. So if I go for Aqua Jet as he goes for a Flare Blitz, then he can sack off his Darmanitan, and he can just win the game with his Scarf Kyurem spamming Earth Power. That's a problem. Especially because, yeah, that's a problem, because my entire team is in range of that at this point, as all he would have to do to win the game at that point is, see, I believe my Nidoking's at 94, so thinking about that one as well. I believe my best play was still to go for Rest, so I went for Rest on this turn, as you can see here, as he's going to go into his Altaria instead of going for the Flare Blitz, which is a good play on his part. There's no way he expected Rest, but considering my set, that was definitely his best play, so that was good on him for sure. But what this does now is this means that I have another chance of going into my Nidoking. Now, if I had gone for an Aqua Jet on the following turn instead of a Rest, what that would have done is that would have left me in danger of, being 2-hit KO'd by Kyurem, so I'd have no switch-ins to Kyurem. Yeah, Rest was definitely my best play, because if I didn't go for that, I'd be in range of a 2-hit KO from Rocks and 2 Earth Powers from Kyurem. So yeah, definitely my best play there, as he goes into Altaria. Now this gives me another chance to go into my Nidoking. I believe every single turn here at the end of the game is basically a 50-50, so it's really hard here at the end of the game. But here, I'm going to go ahead and switch into my Nidoking. Fortunately for me, he does not pull the double into Darm again. That would have really sucked, as he does just fire off a Hyper Voice, trying to probably catch me staying in, expecting the Darm. So now I'm going to be able to get up my Stealth Rocks, as what this does is it puts the Darmanitan in range of Aqua Jet, as well as puts the Kyurem in a pickle, where it's going to eventually be in range of Bullet Punch from Metagross as well. So here I'm going to go into my Azumarill, and we get crit. Okay, so this is big. So okay. So Earth Power does 48.9% with the crit, approximately. It turns out that the regular roll is around 30%. So what this does, is this limits Azumarill switch-ins, okay? What this does is this puts me in range of Stealth Rock plus another Earth Power. The reason I went for Rest earlier was to prevent me from being in this range, because if I have one additional switch into Stealth Rock, that gives me one additional chance to check the Darmanitan, okay? The fact that he got the Earth Power crit here means that I can no longer check the Darmanitan with my Azumarill, because I am forced to stay in. I'm in range of everything. I lose a Pokemon here, no matter what. I either lose a Pokemon, or I effectively lose a Pokemon from Stealth Rock. So I'm forced to stay in at this point and fire off a Play Rough, because no matter what he goes into, it will die to the combination of Play Rough and Aqua Jet. he's obviously going to leave in his Kyurem here because he gets a kill in some way, no matter what. So this really sucks, because what this is going to come down to now, if he didn't get that crit, is it would have been a series of two 50-50s late game that would have decided the game. And Abe does explain this very well in his video. I'd highly recommend you go check that out as well to get his perspective. So what this comes down to, I'm going to try to explain it myself, but essentially what happens here is he goes for a second Earth Power. If I don't get crit, it does about 30% every time. I'm going to be able to take him out with a Play Rough. He's going to sack Kyurem there, no questions asked. I'll then be at about 17%, so I have about something like 17-20%. I'll have one switch into rocks left. That's the important part. So he'll be down on Kyurem. He's going to then go into his Mega Altaria to try to check me. It becomes a 50-50 at that point as to whether or not he stays it with Mega Altaria or goes into his Darmanitan, expecting me to go into my Nidoking. Admittedly, on that play, I believe I don't know. It's hard to say, and it's hard to say now because it's not in the moment of the game. I believe that my intuition would have told me to go into the Nidoking on that turn, and then leave, because that is the play that prevents it from being an auto loss if I get it wrong. It's also the play that minimizes differential if I get it wrong. So, yeah, on the first 50-50, I'm pretty confident that I would have. That he would have won the first 50-50, so that's fine, no problem. So what would have happened there is I would have gone into, Kyurem would be dead, I'd go into my Nidoking as he doubles into his potential Darmanitan, which is the play he thought he would make, but he also said he wasn't really sure what he would do. I'm pretty confident my play would have been to go into my Nidoking on that turn, so whatever he would have done, I'm not sure. We never really will know because of the crit, but that's what might have happened. So that's one 50-50 out of the way. The second 50-50 involves this. So I'm into my Nidoking against his Darmanitan. At that point, I sack off my Metagross because it's not very useful, and then I go into my Azumarill. Okay, it's my last switch in with Azumarill. So then it's a true 50-50 again as to does he leave Darmanitan in, or does he switch into his Altaria? Because if I go for Aqua Jet versus Darm, it dies. If I go for Play Rough versus the Mega Altaria, it dies, and I clean up with Darm. Or a cleanup versus Darm. So it's two 50-50s that determine the game if there's no crit here. He has to win both 50-50s to win the game. I only have to win one of them. So it's, yeah, it was definitely in my favor to win. Not guaranteed by any means. I'm not going to say it was a guaranteed win, but yeah, kind of sucks that the crit pretty much ended my chances. As now what I have to do to win the game is I have to double crit my priority versus the Darmanitan, as I am running out of options. Okay, I'm running out of options to beat Scarf Darm. As here, one other option. Play Rough obviously kills the Kyurem, so yeah. The other option is that I can wear him down with Flare Blitz Recoil, as if I sack my Metagross to a Flare Blitz, he might take enough recoil to where he'll be in range of Aqua Jet, or of Bullet Punch, plus Sucker Punch from my Nidoking. So what my play is now, as I kill the Kyurem, as he goes into his Mega Altaria. Here my play is always to hard switch into Nidoking, because that gives me Azumarill as sack fodder. That allows me to get off Bullet Punch damage versus the Darmanitan with my Metagross, as he takes me out with a Flare Blitz, hopefully, takes that recoil, and then hopefully is in range of Sucker Punch from Nidoking. So that's what I have to do to win the game. That's the only way to win the game. I think I still need a crit, though, with either the Bullet Punch or the Sucker Punch to get it. Let's see if we can get it, though. So I do go into my Nidoking, as I'm going to be able to eat up the Hyper Voice. This is an easy kill. He's going to sack his Altaria, unless he wants to give me the win. That'd be cool, but he's not going to do that. So here he's going to go into his Darmanitan. I am going to sack off my Azumarill, as I have no reason to keep it around. If he does have Flare Blitz, I believe that does put him in range. I believe I would win. Yeah, if he had Flare Blitz here, as you can see, actually, yeah, he went for Fire Punch. You see that now. So he has Fire Punch, not Flare Blitz. My only way to win this game is if I double crit with my Bullet Punch and my Sucker Punch. I do get the first crit with Bullet Punch. So he goes for Fire Punch, takes me out. I need the crit with Sucker Punch to win this game. It's really, really close. We need the crit. Let's see if we can get it. We fire off the Sucker Punch, and it missed it by that much. A crit would have definitely taken him out. So we lose 1-0 again. Dang it. Yeah, that sucks. So it was a really, really close game. Really close game. The crit did not determine the game, but it definitely removed my my good chances of winning. I had about a 75% chance of winning, I would call it, without the crit, if you don't take into account the potential of a Spadef drop, which would have done the same thing. But that sucks. So we lost this game. We'll bounce back, though, as Abe advances to 7-1. So props to him. Happy to see a fellow TTM doing really well this season. As for us, we are 3-5. Ouch. So that's not ideal, obviously. But I guess the silver lining is there's two silver linings. So one is we handed Mega Altaria its first death of the season. So there's that. But number two is that we still have a differential of 0 despite the 3-5 record. So I guess that's the benefit to losing 3 games 1-0. it still kind of sucks to lose games 1-0, obviously, as that means my prep and play was good, but not good enough. So it's just coming down to this game. I don't think this game was really misplays. I think I could have made a better lead choice in hindsight. I think if I led, yeah, I think if I were to lead with my Azumarill instead of leading with my Latias, expecting the Darmanitan, that would have been smarter. As even if he did lead with the Nidoqueen, what it would do is it would allow me to hard switch Nidoqueen into the hard switch Latias into the Nidoqueen. If he goes for Stealth Rocks, it's a free switch in. I'm able to fire off a Defog as well as fire off a Psychic on that turn. That said, by leading Latias, I'm able to basically net a free kill immediately. So I don't know. It's a trade-off. Latias could have been nice later in the game, but he did have 2 Scarfers, so it's tough to call. Not really sure on that. I don't know. I shouldn't dwell on this game too much, though. It was just a bunch of 50-50s. Abe ended up coming out on top. 1 crit was the game. It impacted the game a lot, obviously. Little upset about it, but, you know, it's Pokemon, so oh well. But good game, Abe. Definitely check out his channel and his side of the battle, as I mentioned before. Definitely worth a watch. I've already seen it, if you couldn't already tell. I've already seen it before recording this, so definitely worth a watch. It definitely clears up some of his plays for sure. And really, he turned it up a notch. After the first couple turns, I thought I was in a really good position. I was up 6-4 pretty cleanly, and then he just kind of started winning every 50-50, so there's that. But, yeah, he played really well for sure. But as for us, we're 3-5. Next week, we have a game against my boy Togavor, who is second or third place in my conference, so another hard game, going through the gauntlet one by one. But we have some interesting changes to my team coming up here. I'm going to go ahead and announce these now. So we have a couple big transactions that occurred this week, as I'm tired of losing, and we're going to see if changing up the team will fix that a little bit. So unfortunately, we're going to say goodbye to Drag the Latias, and we're going to say goodbye to Electrolyte the Electros, and in exchange we are going to get a Thunderous Tea, and we're going to get a Gothitelle. Okay, so we have Megalop, Gothitelle, Thundy Tea, as well as Metagross, Azumarill, Nidoking, and then a nice Talonflame in the back for my offense. So that's some pretty scary offense that I'm pretty excited to use, as I think it can put in a lot of work, especially in my remaining matchups, and we'll see how that goes for sure. But it definitely helps my team out offensively. Before that trade, my matchup in the next game was so bad, like nearly unwinnable in my opinion, and with these trades I feel it's a lot more even, so I have a chance of winning that game at least now. And with 5 losses, I really can't lose. I think I can lose maybe 1 more and still have a chance at playoffs, but I don't want to lose anymore. I would like to go 7-5. That'll be pretty hard to do, obviously, especially against this caliber of competition. But after my game with Chris Togavor next week, I believe that my matches are a little bit less daunting. Not to say they're easy. This is the MPL. Nothing is easy, but they are certainly less daunting than what I've gone through the past 4 weeks or so. With starting with what was it, Zazo, Maddie? Yeah, Zazo, Maddie, and then I had week 6, Zazo, Maddie. Week 4, week 5, week 6. Who did I have week 6? Yeah, it was Zazo, Maddie, Top Tier Boy, Shoddy, Aberforth, and then Togavor. So all very, very good players in draft format, back to back to back to back to back to back, and holy crap. Alright, so we're going to try to pull ourselves out of the hole here coming forward, and I'm going to stop ranting now. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in week 9. We're not going to be 3-5 for long, I promise. We're going to fix this. Have a good one, guys. Peace.